Great. Just to confirm, we're about to begin the full script based on the title you gave earlier. HOA Karen Race's son calls cops on me for installing a smart lock on my pool gate. He's trespassing. Here's how we'll proceed. Asterisk, I'll write the script section by section, around 700 words each, in natural English, keeping it faceless and engaging so your audience stays hooked. Now, here is section 1 of the script. It all started the day I installed a smart lock on my pool gate. Not for show, not to make a point, just for peace of mind. I'd had too many strangers using my pool like it was some public park. Kids hopping the fence, neighbors just taking a quick dip, even one guy who had the nerve to barbecue near my poolside furniture. Enough was enough. So I went online, ordered a reliable smart lock with a keypad, installed it myself, and thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The very next afternoon, I saw a teenager I didn't recognize standing at the gate. Hoodie up, hands on the keypad, punching random codes. I watched from my kitchen window. He wasn't confused. He was frustrated. He clearly expected to walk in like he had before. I stepped outside and called out, calm but firm, "Can I help you?" He turned around slowly, looked me up and down, and said, "Why'd you lock it?" I replied, "Because it's my pool." He laughed under his breath, like I had said something ridiculous. Then he reached into his hoodie and pulled out a crumpled sheet of paper. HOA rules, of course. One line highlighted in marker: all homeowners shall have access to community amenities. I looked at him and said, "This isn't a community pool. It's on my private property. I maintain it. I pay for it. It's mine." He rolled his eyes, muttered something I didn't catch, and stomped away. I figured that was that. Then came the knock. 20 minutes later, his mother, what I now call HOA Karen, showed up at my front door. No greeting. No questions, just outrage. "You can't install a smart lock without HOA permission," she snapped. "Yes, I can," I said, "because this pool isn't under HOA control." Her eyebrows raised. "That pool's been used by neighbors for years." "Not anymore," I replied. "There's a fence. It's on my lot, and I have the deed to prove it." That's when it turned nasty. "You're targeting my son," she said. "This is racial profiling. He's just a kid trying to swim." I blinked. "Your son tried to break in. That's trespassing." She pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the police." "Please do," I said. She didn't expect that. But she made the call anyway, loud enough for me to hear every word. Minutes later, flashing lights rolled up the street. 2 officers stepped out. Karen rushed to meet them, talking fast and loud. "He locked the community pool," she said. "He's harassing my son. This is discrimination." The officers approached me. I was calm. I had everything ready. I handed them the property survey and deed, showed them the fence line, explained that I had installed a smart lock because people kept coming onto my property without permission. One of the officers, Officer Daniels, took his time reading the documents. Then he nodded. "This pool is fully on your lot," he said. "You have every right to secure it." Karen wasn't done. "He's excluding us. This is racist." The other officer raised a hand. "Ma'am, your son was on private property. This has nothing to do with race. If anything, we're advising him not to return or he may face charges." She went silent for a moment. The fire in her eyes dimmed a bit. Then she muttered something about calling the HOA board and stormed off with her son in tow. The officers apologized for the inconvenience and left. And there I stood, beside my pool, smart lock blinking green, fence secure, rights fully intact. I thought the drama was over, but I didn't realize HOA Karen wasn't finished. Not even close. The next morning, I woke up to something odd. 3 HOA board members standing on the sidewalk in front of my house. Not at the door, not in the driveway. Just standing there, arms crossed, like they were waiting for me to step out and face some trial. One of them had a clipboard. Another had a phone, recording something. I opened the blinds wider, just to be sure I wasn't imagining it. Then, without ringing the bell or saying a word, they turned and started pacing along the fence that wrapped around my pool. They pointed at the lock, whispered to each other. took pictures. It looked more like a crime scene investigation than a neighborly visit. I stepped outside and asked, "Can I help you with something?" The woman with the clipboard, Sharon, the board secretary, smiled in that tight way that didn't actually mean friendly. "We're just documenting a violation," she said. "A violation of what?" I asked. She flipped a page. "Unauthorized modifications to shared property." I raised an eyebrow. "You still think the pool is shared property?" She didn't answer that. Just clicked her pen and scribbled something down. I noticed a man next to her, Rick, I think, was live streaming, not just filming. Streaming. I could hear the comments pinging through his phone. That's when I realized it wasn't just about the smart lock anymore. It was about saving face. HOA Karen had clearly gone crying to board after the cops shut her down. Now, they were out here trying to turn the story in their favor. Make me look like the difficult neighbor, the one locking out the community. I walked right up to the fence and leaned against the post. The police reviewed the paperwork. I said, "It's private. It's on my lot. It's not a community amenity." The fence was there before I even moved in. I just upgraded the lock. Rick muttered, "Well, now you're being aggressive." Aggressive? I hadn't raised my voice once. I kept calm. This whole thing could have been avoided if someone just asked questions instead of calling the cops or making accusations. Sharon flipped her clipboard shut. "We'll be sending a notice." "Great," I replied. "I'll be forwarding it to my attorney." They didn't like that. The board thrives on people folding, not fighting back. But I wasn't going to let them play the bully game. They left a few minutes later, but not before taking a few more photos. Zooming in on the smart lock, the sign I'd posted that read, "Private pool access by owner only," and even my security camera by the back door. I stood there the whole time, letting them record whatever they wanted, because I knew the law was on my side. An hour later, the notice came via email. It was full of vague claims: non-compliant fixture, community disruption, failure to maintain architectural harmony. I read it twice and still couldn't find a single sentence that cited an actual rule I'd broken. Just a lot of buzzwords meant to sound official. So I printed it out, made a few notes on it, and took it straight to my lawyer. He laughed when he saw it. "They've got nothing," he said, "but they're going to keep trying to wear you down." And he was right. Over the next few days, more odd things started happening. Someone left a flyer in my mailbox and signed about community unity and how individualism was hurting the neighborhood spirit. Someone else dumped a plastic bag of leaves over my side of the fence. Just enough to notice. Not enough to prove who did it. Then I caught someone walking their dog and purposely stopping in front of my camera, muttering about selfish neighbors and people who don't belong here. Loud enough for the mic to pick up every word. It was all part of their strategy. If they couldn't win through rules or legal threats, they'd try shame, isolation, maybe even small acts of vandalism. But I'd lived long enough to know when someone's bluffing. And this was a neighborhood performance. A weak one at that. But what they didn't know, what Karen didn't know, was that I'd already started taking things further than they expected. I wasn't just defending my property. I was gathering proof, documenting everything, every incident, every notice, every word. Because while they were playing HOA politics, I was building a case. One that could end this nonsense for good. By the third week, the petty games had turned into something more calculated. I was watering the front lawn when I noticed a small, laminated sign staked near the sidewalk, just outside my property line. I walked over and read it. Bold black letters. Asterisk, asterisk, community pool access under review. HOA concerns pending resolution, asterisk, asterisk, dot. Under review? According to who? It was carefully worded. Clearly designed to make it look like there was an official dispute over who owned my pool, as if the HOA was giving people a reason to doubt what I had already proved. No name, no contact info, just that vague message and the HOA logo printed in the corner. That same afternoon, 2 kids from around the block stopped by my gate, not to swim, but to ask questions. "Is it true you stole the pool from the neighborhood?" One of them asked. I blinked. "Who told you that?" "My mom said you use a fancy lock to keep everyone out." She said that's not fair. I knelt down and said, "This isn't a neighborhood pool, buddy. It's mine. It's part of my home, just like my garage or my kitchen. Would you be okay if someone walked into your house and started eating your food without asking?" They looked unsure. "But we used to swim here," the other said. I nodded. "I know, but just because people use it before doesn't mean it wasn't always private. They just got used to ignoring the rules." They didn't really know what to say, just shrugged and walked off. But I knew someone was feeding them that story. Someone was turning neighbors into messengers, spreading doubt, building pressure, all because a smart lock reminded them they didn't control over what wasn't theirs. The next day, I got a call from someone I didn't recognize. He introduced himself as Kyle from the HOA Legal Committee, said he was calling to de-escalate the growing tension in the community. His tone was friendly, overly smooth, like he was reading from a script. "I understand you placed a lock on what some residents view as a historically shared amenity," he began. I stopped him there. "That pool is on private property, Kyle. There's no historically shared anything. It's surrounded by a fence within my deeded boundaries and not listed as a community asset in any HOA document. I've checked." A pause. Then, "We'd just like to avoid legal complications." "So would I." I replied. "That's why I followed the law from the start." He sighed. "Would you be open to a compromise? Maybe shared hours? Limited access for key residents? We could avoid further complaints that way." "Key residents?" I said. "Like HOA board members and their families?" No answer. I hung up. That's when I knew they weren't just trying to take the pool. They were trying to get me to give it up willingly. If they couldn't win through rules, they'd aim for guilt, optics, pressure. But none of that mattered if the facts stayed clear. Later that week, I got home to find another flyer taped to my door. This one was slick, full color, glossy paper. Asterisk neighborhood meeting. Topic: resolving the pool conflict asterisk. Right under the title, a photo of my fence, my gate, my lock, cropped to look like a barrier. A wall. They didn't ask me to attend. They just let the picture speak. But I showed up anyway. The meeting was held in the clubhouse. Dozens of people in folding chairs, murmuring. Karen sat in the front row like she ran the place. As I walked in, some folks turned. A few nodded. Others just stared. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't call anyone names. I brought a folder and calmly presented the property lines, zoning maps, the water bills, and the legal documents. Again, I explained the smart lock wasn't about exclusion. It was about protection, privacy, safety, liability. Then I held up a laminated copy of the police report, the one where the officer confirmed the pool was private and the teen, Karen's son, was trespassing. That got quiet. Karen tried to cut in, saying her son didn't know and was just being a kid. But the facts were right there in black and white. There was nothing left to argue. I didn't need applause. I didn't need anyone to side with me. I just wanted the truth out in the open. And by the look on some faces in that room, it was starting to sink in. A few days after the meeting, things went strangely quiet. No flyers, no phone calls, no board members lurking by the fence. For the first time in weeks, I could sit by the pool and enjoy the quiet without feeling watched. But I wasn't fooled. Silence from the HOA usually meant they were regrouping, not retreating. Then it started. One evening, I noticed someone had tossed a soda can into my pool. Not a big deal, just annoying. I scooped it out, thinking maybe it was wind or some random prank. But the next morning, there were two more, one still half full, and a candy wrapper stuck to the gate. Now it felt intentional. I checked the security footage. Around 2 a.m., someone had crept up, tossed the trash over the fence, and ran off. Hoodie up, face barely visible. I couldn't confirm who it was, but I had a hunch. The same kid who tried to climb the fence. Karen's son. That afternoon, I printed screenshots from the camera footage and dropped by the local sheriff's office. I didn't file a report just yet. I just wanted it on record. The deputy there recognized me from the first call. "You again?" he asked with a tired smile. "Yeah," I said. Looks like this thing's still not over. He shook his head. People don't like being told no, especially when they've been getting away with things for years. Back home, I put up a new sign, 24-hour video surveillance in use. No trespassing. Violators will be prosecuted. Plain, direct, nothing flashy. But I made sure it faced the street and the gate. And then, for the second time in a week, I got another visit. This time, it wasn't Karen or a board member. It was her husband. He didn't knock. He just waited at the edge of my driveway, hands in his pockets, eyes locked on the gate like it had personally insulted him. I stepped out and asked, "Can I help you?" He spoke in a low voice, like he didn't want anyone to hear. "You really gonna keep this going?" "What's that supposed to mean?" I asked. "You're making a scene. My wife's getting harassed now. My son's being treated like a criminal." I crossed my arms. "Your son trespassed. Your wife lied to the police and started a neighborhood campaign against me." He looked down at the ground, then back up. "We all make mistakes, but you could end this." "By giving in?" I asked. "No one's asking for the whole pool. Just access. You've got space." I shook my head. "It's not about space. It's about respect. If your family had knocked on my door instead of calling the cops, maybe this would have ended differently." He didn't argue, just gave a tight nod and walked off. The next morning, another notice appeared in my mailbox. This time, not from the HOA, but from the city zoning office. It claimed there had been an anonymous tip that I'd made unapproved modifications to recreational space. The letter asked me to schedule an inspection. I knew exactly where that came from. I called the office, explained the situation, and offered to send them the same documents I'd given police and the HOA. The woman on the phone sounded exhausted. "This happens more than you think," she said. "We'll take a look. But honestly, this just sounds like someone weaponizing the system." I scheduled the inspection anyway. I had nothing to hide. When the inspector arrived, he was all business. Tape measure, clipboard, camera. He walked the fence line, checked the setback from the house, inspected the lock. Then he asked the same question everyone eventually did. "This pool's not community-owned?" "Nope," I said, handing him the property map again. "All mine." He looked it over, nodded, and said, "You're good. I'll file the report." It was another win, but I was growing tired. Every small victory came with more pettiness. They weren't just trying to gain access anymore. They were trying to wear me down. Paperwork, inspections, trash, rumors. All tiny cuts aimed at making me back off. But the thing about people like Karen and boards like this is that they think silence means surrender. What they didn't realize was that I'd stopped being angry a long time ago. I wasn't fighting out of spite. I was standing my ground because this was my home, and no one was going to bully me out of it. Here is section number 5, final section, /700 words, of the script for your Faceless YouTube video. It had been nearly 2 months since the first incident with the smart lock, and by now, most of the neighborhood knew exactly what had happened. People stopped whispering. Some even started waving when I walked by. But just when I thought it had all finally burned out, Karen made her final move. It came in the form of an email, not to me directly, but to the entire neighborhood email list. The subject line read, "Urgent, protecting community values, a message from concerned residents." She had written a full-blown manifesto, paragraph after paragraph blaming me for dividing neighbors, destroying access, and bringing hostility into a once peaceful neighborhood. She never used my name, but the message was clear. I was the villain, the outsider, the one ruining their way of life. She called my smart lock a symbol of exclusion, said it was a danger to children, a threat to unity. But then came the kicker. She wrote, "We are currently collecting signatures to file an official complaint with the county regarding the misuse of property and possible code violations. If you care about our community, please stand with us." That's when I realized it wasn't about the pool. It never had been. It was about control, about one woman and one board, wanting everyone to bend to their version of how things should be, whether it was legal or not. But this time, I didn't just sit back. I responded. Not with insults, not with threats. Just a short, polite reply to the same neighborhood list. I respect everyone's right to express their opinion. But for clarity, my pool is on private land, confirmed by the county. The lock is legal. The property lines are clear, and any attempt to interfere further will be met with legal action. I attached copies of the county's ruling, the police report, the zoning inspector results, and even a picture of the gate. No drama, just facts. The next day, her message was gone, removed from the thread. No apology, no explanation, just disappeared. And a strange thing started happening after that. One by one, people began approaching me, not with complaints, but with thanks. Quiet ones. A woman from 2 streets over said, "I've had the HOA fine me 3 times for parking my own car too close to my garage." I didn't think anyone could push back until now. Another man said, "I didn't even know we had property rights like that. They act like they own everything." Turns out, I wasn't the only one they'd mess with. I was just the first to say no. By the end of the week, 3 houses had canceled their HOA automatic payments. Someone posted a video of the meeting I'd spoken at, just the part where I laid out the facts and held up the police report. It started spreading, and with it, the board's credibility began to crumble. Karen? She went quiet. No more emails. No more speeches. Her son disappeared from the pool area completely. And eventually, the concerned resident signs came down too. The smart lock stayed. I still fish by the pool in the evenings. Sometimes I have friends over, people I trust, and we grill, talk, let the dogs run around. Peaceful. No drama. Just the kind of life I wanted when I bought this home. I didn't win by yelling louder or playing dirtier. I won by knowing where my lines were and refusing to let anyone cross them. And if there's one thing I learned through it all, it's this. HOAs and Karens thrive on silence. They count on you not knowing your rights. They expect you to roll over, to apologize, to give in just to keep the peace. But sometimes the only way to protect your peace is to lock the gate. And I'm never taking that lock off.